Today I'm going to try cooking a recipe from Butter Me Up Brooklyn, which is for brown butter pumpkin cookies with apple cider glaze. So for this I need butter, boom, brown sugar, a boom, baking powder, no boom, this one's expired. No boom, this one's really expired. Boom, we got it. Baking soda, or as we call it here in Ireland, bicarbonate of soda. Salt. Cinnamon. Boom. Ginger. Ta-da. Nutmeg. And cloves. Also, 1 egg yolk, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, someone's hiding my vanilla, pumpkin puree, and flour. So, first and foremost, we need to measure out the ingredients for the recipe. And get the can. Okay. Like so. And go everywhere. So the butter's melting away, and I'm waiting for the big lump to go totally liquid. While it's melting, you'll notice the butter foaming up a little bit, which is what you want. But you have to make sure you keep on stirring it so that all of the milk solids are moving, because you don't want that burning. Keep stirring. So once the butter has melted down, you'll notice that it's kind of got little brown lumps in it, and it should have a kind of nutty smell coming off it. So I'm going to transfer that now into the measuring jug. Now it's really important that you don't forget to transfer in those little brown bits at the bottom of your pan. So grab yourself a spatula and make sure to scrape them in. So we're going to have to leave that to cool for about 20 minutes before we use it. So I'm going to set that aside. The recipe calls for the oven to be preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and seeing as our oven is in centigrade, I have no idea what that is. Okay, Google. I know. 350 degrees Fahrenheit in Celsius.
350 degrees Fahrenheit is 176.67 degrees Celsius.
We'll go with 180. So in a mixing bowl, I'm going to add my brown sugar, my baking powder, baking soda, salt and spices. Mix them together, making sure to break up the big pieces of the brown sugar. And then to that I am going to add egg yolk and vanilla. And give that a nice mix. Then I'm going to add in my pumpkin puree. Now the liquid of the pumpkin puree will mean that the whole thing will go into a nice sugary paste, which should look something like that. I'm going to throw this into the oven to make sure that it is preheated. Now we're going to be using about 100 milliliters or half a cup of the brown butter in the cookie mix. So I'm going to mix up the brown butter to make sure that all the little bits get spread throughout. And then I'm gonna measure out half a cup because we're gonna hold on to that last little bit for the icing. I'm gonna slowly pour this in. Oh yeah. And then finally, I'm going to sift in my flour. And so I need to stir vigorously. There's flour going everywhere. So at this point, our dough looks something like that. So this is supposed to make like 24 cookies. Now the best part is you roll it in your hands to make a little ball. So I didn't quite get 24 out of it, because as you might be able to see, my first few were a little bit too big. What we're going to do at this stage is pop them into the preheated oven and bake for 10 minutes. For the glaze that's going to go on top of them, I'm going to take 150 grams of icing sugar, and I'm going to add the icing sugar into the remaining bit of brown butter. Now to that, I'm going to add another teaspoon of my vanilla and just a tiny pinch of sea salt. And stir that all up. What I've got at this stage is a mixture that almost has the consistency of breadcrumbs. So I'm just going to keep on mixing that until the big lumps are out of it. And then I'm going to add the cider, roughly about a tablespoon at a time, until the sugar starts to get a kind of texture that you think you're going to be able to spread it over the top of the cookies. And that's the kind of texture you want. Just running enough to drizzle, but still pretty thick. Have a little taste. Oh, and there is the alarm for the cookies. So as you can see, they certainly puffed up. Probably could have given them a bit more space on the tray, but yeah. So I'm going to leave them to cool on the pan for a few minutes, and then I'm going to transfer them onto a wire rack for the last bit of cooling. So the cookies have cooled down now. They're sliding lovely apart. Sliding lovely apart? That doesn't even make sense. They're sliding apart nicely. And then I'm going to take the wire rack. So I'm going to leave them to cool for a few more minutes. It is icing time. And the very last step is to add a little bit of shimmer spray to give them that little sparkle. And there we have it. Brown butter pumpkin cookies with an apple cider glaze.